All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Mornings with Movers. We got a special guest in the building. We got, Ryan, he's special too. And it's after Christmas. I hope everybody got everything they wanted. I hope you gave you guys a day off. But it's time to turn up, time to get focused. The New Year's is coming. So we got some gems for you guys today. Again, I'm Dwyght with Mack Moving Training. We got Ryan Marsh in the building, excited to be here today. And we got our guest, Bruce Anderson, who's a mind focus coach. And Bruce, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, thanks. Well, my background really is construction, and I had something happen about 8 years ago. And it's kind of like my own little personal story, but 8 years ago, this day changed my life forever. And what happened is, I don't even know what triggered it, but I heard this voice in my head, and it was very deep, methodical, clear, short, brief, and it said, something important's coming, write your book. And so last 8 years I've been pondering that what is something important. And so uh now jumping to today, like 8 years later, some of the things that I've found that I think are really important. One is I dove really hard into the mind, and I heard this guy named Dr. Bruce Lipton, and he said that we have two minds, and we have a conscious mind and we have a subconscious mind, and the conscious mind is playing about 5% of the day, and then we have a subconscious mind that plays about 95% of the day. Also, we have a lower consciousness, we have a neutral conscious, and then we have a higher consciousness. Well, what he's saying is about 70% of our programs in our subconscious mind are negative. And so if we have a negative program, we'll just say like with fear around money, and it's playing 95% of the day, and these programs are like 500,000 times more powerful and has a faster processor than our conscious mind. So that negative program is going to win every time. And that's what causes us to struggle and suffer and work too hard for money. There's this negative program. So subconscious means below consciousness. We're not even aware of those negative thoughts, those negative programs. We are not those programs, but we learn those programs and we believe those to be true, and we don't even like question it.
Hey everybody, my name is Dwyght Mack with Mack Moving Training. So we're going to be doing a move and a pack today. But before we go in, there's just 10 basic rules that we just need to know before participating with this service. So number one, understand moving is a very, very stressful thing. The customer, they're uplifting their life from one location to another. They're having to call all these vendors and get all these suppliers in place so that basically they can make that transition. So their stress level is at the highest right now. We need to be a service provider that comes in and basically keep that stress level mitigated or very low. Come in as professionals and do our job the way we know how to do our job so that this customer is less stress during that move process. Number two, be on time. First impression is everything. You guys showing up outside of the window rubs the customer the wrong way. It messes up the rest of the move process. Even if you guys do the best job y'all can do, because one thing was off, this customer's mood is just off. Go up and beyond, be there before the time, as long as they're okay with it.
Um,
Okay. No, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I feel like that's why we talked about, I think in several episodes ago, we talked about the positive inputs that you absorb around you, the people that you have around you is all, I guess it makes up who you are, I guess, your inner circle. So if you're surrounding yourself, you're taking in negative input, with all negativity energy, it's almost inevitable that you're going to have a negative connotation about something.
yeah,
What's your
totally.
take, Brian?
No, the old famous line, misery loves company. It's something I've heard a long, long time ago, and it's very true. I mean, miserable people find miserable people. And again, I love what you're saying, Bruce. It's a pleasure to meet you, and I'm
Nice to meet
excited
you
to hear what
too.
you got to say because, hey, we all need this little checkup in our lives each and every day. So, no, I'm almost going to be a fly on the wall on this one. I'm super pumped to hear what you got, Bruce.
To go in that a little bit deeper, that's what the newest science saying in quantum physics, that everything is energy, everything's vibrating, everything creates a frequency. And when we're attracting, like you could go into like a relationship, if we're always attracting like an unhealthy relationship, that's because they're kind of mirroring us. We are in that lower frequency with this, again, with relationships. And so we need to raise our energy frequencies, but kind of getting back to wealth. If we're in the frequency of like fears or worries, doubts, guilt, shame, blame, judgments, conditions, attachments, all these different lower conscious vibration, we're going to attract that, right? Whatever frequency we are, we're going to attract that back into our life. And that's kind of the biggest problem with most people, why they struggle in with money, is their frequencies are too low. They call it an energy frequency mismatch. And so
Okay.
we have to, you don't even have to identify these negative programs, but you have to let go of them, these negative programs. I have a thing where I call it rapid reprogramming, where I connect to like do a coaching session and I'm connecting to their higher self. I call it it's like their higher mind, but I like calling it their super conscious. It's like the highest frequency. It's an analogy of that would be like you're on top of the mountain. You can see so much further when you're higher frequencies. Like you're always kind of intuition. Like I'm looking at the clock now, and it's always like 3333 now. It's kind of interesting when you get into higher frequencies. And
Okay.
if you want, I can actually tell a personal story about that actual happening to me. So I was going on this journey, and like I said, I was in the house business, and I was buying houses, fixing them up, and flipping them, house flipper. And I had done like three. I was working on like my fourth project, and I was consistently making like $30,000 a month, so like $1,000 a day. And I noticed like on the like my third night, I just couldn't sleep. I was so excited. I was in these. I just knew I was abundant, and because I was in the frequency of abundance, now that was my inner world. In the outer world, what I noticed is people, circumstances, and events were magically coming to me because I was in that frequency. So an example of that would be like I had private money people coming to me wanting to loan me money. I had people that wanted to work for me. I had people that were subs that wanted to work for me. I had these people that are called bird doggers who find projects and then you give them an assignment fee. And they were coming to me. So because I was in that frequency of wealth, all these other things were magically coming to me. Does that
Right,
make sense?
that makes a lot of sense. Yes. It's almost like when you're about to get that tax refund, Ryan, and as soon as you get that tax,
I don't know what a tax refund is, man, to
it's
be
been a
dead.
while. It's been a while.
I just got a check from I don't know if it was the IRS, whoever it was, but it was the child tax credit thing, whatever. And I was like, ooh, you know how that check comes in the
Yeah.
mail. I got a little excited, right? It's 3 days before Christmas. I'm like, ooh, what can we do with this? I opened that thing up. It was $70.65. So
Oh, geez.
with that being said, Bruce, I need you to change my frequency because I can't be getting checks in the mail for
Ah,
70.
you
That's
know
just not
what?
gonna, that's a waste of a stamp in my opinion.
You
But
know what? It's crazy because
Number three, make sure your team is in uniform, they're groomed, their hygiene is checked, because that's the worst thing you could do, especially going in a house. Customer could smell your guy from a mile away, and now, again, their mood is just thrown off. So make sure that you guys are in uniform, you're tight, you have uniform shirts, that it doesn't look like, you have a laborer that's, hired from off the street. Presentation is everything that goes towards your first impression. Number four, Introduce both you and your partner when greeting the customer. Don't just go to the door by yourself, while your driver is unloading the truck, and introduce yourself. Actually have both of you there. Introduce yourself first, then introduce your partner second, and then, allow them to welcome you into their home.
That's a waste of a stamp, in my opinion. But
You know what? It's crazy because you know what? If you get a refund check, you must be doing bad in business. Because, IRS don't give you no refund check. It's to the
no.
point last year it got bad because I actually claimed a dependent on my tax return. But it wasn't a child. It was like my mom, I'll say it. It was my mom, but it was like, okay, hey, they said if you claim a dependent, sometimes you get money back. Not if you're in business, because they're still gonna run all of your income through your personal taxes. And then they're gonna like, oh, you got a little write-off, huh? Okay, don't worry about that. And then they end up sending you nothing unless your business did really bad. That's the only time IRS will send you money. If your business did really good, expect to pay out money.
Yeah, I learned the hard way first year in business with the side piece that my wife and I have. It was like, we're all excited. I don't know how I didn't know this business 101. Like, hey, we're profitable, we have money, this is great. And then insert the account, and they're like, oh, by the way, I'm gonna need you to cut a check for this. And I'm like, for what? Like because you did well. And I'm like, well, that was a waste. Um, so let it be
Penalize you.
known this year, and I don't mind saying on camera, there is nothing going to waste this year. We did a lot of improvements across everything this year to make sure that that does not happen again. I
Yep,
think
and
that's
they do
that's
say
the
that
process.
that is a good way to go about it is even though if you show a profit on your P&L statement, if you could find a way to spend that money, even though it doesn't exist as a phantom amount, but if you could find a way to spend that money on, whatever maintenance, upkeeps, whatever the case is, where it can become a write-off, then it can end up helping you in the long run. Um,
Hmm.
but it's all phantom money. Hopefully you have that money in your account if you've been divvying up your money properly. But before we get too far into it, I want to go over at least we got an article going over 7 step how to effectively manage your time. So it kind of feeds into Bruce's mentality as well as mentality, sorry. And kind of like where we're focused on today. So out of the 7 steps, we'll probably get through like 4, but obviously if you guys want to read this article, it's definitely on the website, maxmovingtraining.com. Also, like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel so that we can keep growing this and you guys can keep following along as we keep dropping gems week after week. So the first step I have is plan your day the night before. And again, these are all steps on how to be more effective with your time. At the end of each day, write out all the things you need to do the following day to achieve your goal. Pull together all the information you'll need, phone numbers, and relevant paperwork. Um, so again, Ryan, you know me, I like to have you chime in on stuff like that. So I guess I know you said something about, I think a couple weeks ago about journaling. Is that part of you planning your next day, or how do you feel like that relates?
Well, I mean, planning obviously is critical, especially if you're like yourself, Dwight. I'm sure Bruce, yourself, you've got a million pieces of the puzzle that are constantly, I feel like, that are moving, right? So I've got the super move, I've got the sub shop, I've got other things. So for me, planning is super, super, super critical. And not even just a day out. I mean, I would say most of my weeks are probably planned out at least a week in advance, unless there's a little pop-up meeting or something like that that I want to accept. But I am very diligent on how I plan my weeks, how I structure my weeks, even down to like the little nitty-gritty things of turning my phone on the no notifications during particular periods of time throughout the day to minimize disruptions, distractions. And I'll tell you another piece, along with the planning is, what do most of us do when we get up in the morning, right? We get on our phones, get to our home screens, we're clicking on what's ever on that main page. And what I found I was doing is I was jumping to the LinkedIn's, the Facebooks, the socials. First thing when I got up, my eyes would wake up, and then boom. So a little simple hack is I went all the way to the back and put all my socials. So you would think, or you would not think that, hey, just having to swipe over a couple times to get to the app that you're looking for would make a big difference. But it had stopped me by, I mean, it's just crazy. Probably like 80% of the time now, I don't even click on that type stuff because it's not in my main screen is basically my planning, my work app, family pieces, or what have you. But I'm not sure what rabbit hole I was diving down there. But yeah, back to planning. I mean, 100%. I plan everything out. I do journal, not every day. I should get better at that. But I try to list out, hey, like what went well today, what didn't go well today, and where do I want to be tomorrow, the following day, or even that particular next week. But yeah, journaling's been huge.
Okay, okay. What's your take on that, Bruce?
Yeah, you definitely got to plan out the day there. I have a little easel board that I usually like write in my to-dos on like every day, or things that are important that I always kind of have something to look at, and then I can always update it, and have a little box where you can check it off, so like you feel like you've been getting some things done, and like prioritize that, like what's the most important, to get done, like the top three things, do that, even though I might not get the fourth and fifth, but always prioritize what's the most important and really what's going to make you money and everything. So,
Gotcha.
How you win the day? I'd say there's nothing more satisfying. And obviously, working for a tech company, you would think that I have and I do. I have my digital calendars. I have all that stuff online, but there's nothing more satisfying, at least for me, is I write out on my calendar. So I get up an extra little early each morning, and I'll write out what I've got to do on that day, even though it's already here. And then I put my little circle, and when I accomplish that task, I check that box. And I'll tell you, I don't
yeah,
know what it is, but how satisfying going down that list, being like, check, check. And
yeah.
back to Bruce's, point, I do. I put everything in order basically when it comes to priority. Now that might change halfway throughout the day based on what's going on, but nothing better than checking the boxes at the end of the day.
No, yeah, and it's definitely helpful. Making that checklist or so like that. All right, so that leads us into number two, prioritizing the list. Again, Bruce already beat us to this, but
Sorry
number
about
each
that.
item and do the harder jobs first. There's always the
Mhm.
temptation to do the easier jobs first. However, think of how the thought of doing the hard jobs hangs over you as you do the easy stuff. Think how good you'll feel when the nasties are out the way and how motivated you. So I guess that does make sense. Obviously, if you got any bigger, challenging tasks, knock those out first and then kind of leave yourself with the easier task. Because you probably will be thinking about those harder tasks while you're doing the easy tasks. So what's your take, Bruce? We'll start with you.
Well, yeah, what kind of popped in my mind when you said that is like sometimes cleaning the desk for me is like a big project, doing all the paperwork and everything. And sometimes I kind of resist that a little bit. But if I just start doing it, and then it's like it's not so bad. Or if I just do it maybe like a two swipes, get the worst of it done, get the table, put the paper away, clean off the desk, sometimes do it in stages. If it's a big job, that's sometimes what I like to do. Do it in it just start, even though if I'm only maybe going to do part of it, but then once I get part of it done, it's like, oh, I might as well finish this.
Right.
And that's kind of my story.
Makes sense. What about you, Ryan?
Now I like what Bruce said. I break down some of the big nasties, as you would call them, Dwight. I try to break those down into digestible chunks, is my thing. Because at least this is me personally. I don't know if I have ADHD or whatever the case is, but I feel like when I get started on something that is a really large project or something that's difficult, I'm like a squirrel. I'll be very upfront. I am chasing the shiny object. I am chasing the nut that rolls across the street or falls out of the tree. So I try to basically segment. Whether it be the tasks and each thing that I have to do, or break it down into healthy, digestible chunks. So A, I don't get frustrated. B, I can remain focused. And then ultimately C, I can execute each individual piece it's almost like, AKA take my one big task and break it down into many smaller tasks. So it just feels easier for me. It just seems more realistic. And I'm not out there chasing shiny objects like I like to. So
hmm And
that's
and
how.
and Ryan says it really well because there's plenty of times where like I write down my tasks and everything that I want to do for the day, but all these tasks have subtask. So making sure that, you definitely don't overwhelm yourself and put like a really big major task and not be able to break it down in individual steps is going to be key to not overwhelming yourself. You're going to have tasks every day. Now again, whether these tasks are important is a whole nother different thing. Because again, 80% of the output really only produces 20% of the results. So making sure that you really focus on what really matters and not things that don't really matter is going to be key to making sure that you're not overwhelming yourself throughout the day. Um, so let's see where we are. So number three, stick to your list. Check off each item as you go and avoid distractions. You don't need to answer every email/text as they come in. Set a schedule to check your email notifications once every hour or whatever works best for you. Now, obviously, you don't want to be checking your email every hour because it'll drive you crazy. Unless you are email focused, that's your business. Where it's like, hey, I expect a lot of emails, blah blah blah. But basically, people's problems aren't your problems. People's sense of urgency aren't your urgencies. So when people are emailing you, insurance companies are emailing you throughout the day, unless you got a renewal coming up soon, you can kind of wait. You can put that on the back burner, you know, um, and just focus on, check your emails, your text messages every 2 to 3 hours. Really set your phone on do not disturb or on silent, with the vibration. I hate my ringer being on. So, if I hear
I've
it,
always got it on vibrate. I can't help it. I hate the ringer.
so, and that's, I guess, years of being in business where you get tormented by hearing your phone go off, and you're just like, you know what? I'll just put it on vibration. What's your take to that, Bruce?
Well, I don't know how to explain that.
I guess
So,
how do you avoid distractions?
oh, okay. Yeah. For me, like I like to go to bed at a reasonable time at night so I can get up early. But so my morning starts and like I'm just gonna say from like 6 to like 12. I don't like to have any distraction. I just want to focus on what's most important to me, and then I might answer any emails or take some calls. If people call me, I still don't. That period is my time.
Okay, six
So
to 12.
yeah.
Oh, that's a steep window.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I mean, that's what works for me. I like like Ryan was kind of saying, not to get distracted in that time period there and everything.
Okay. All right, and then Ryan, what about yourself?
Again, I mean, I feel like we got all these little phrases today, and I wasn't ready for this, but my big thing is, your failure to plan does not create urgency on my behalf, is how I see a lot of things, right? I mean, we work with so many different people, whether you're in the moving side or you're in the mind coaching piece, or you got me over here on the super move side. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't plan like we do. So when they actually go out and request or need or what have you, it almost tends to try to create urgency on my side to go ahead and assist them when they don't necessarily fall within my particular playbook or window for that day, that week, that month, or what have you. Um, yeah. Whoop. Speaking of distractions, I'm getting texts because I don't have my phone on Do Not Disturb. See, this is exactly that
Messing
whole
up
squirrel
already.
chasing the nut thing again.
Aha!
See,
Guilty.
I'm making my
Yeah.
own call, but what I do love is, and I've got to get better at this, and Bruce is hitting it right here, is getting up early every morning. And not just 6 a.m., 4:30, quarter of five, even 5 o'clock. Start your day early. I know for the longest time, longest time, about 9 months, I was up every morning at 4:30. I would have
Jeez.
emails, texts, everything, all the distractionary type piece. I don't even know if distractionary is a word, but it sounds good right now. Any of those distractionary pieces, I would have basically knocked out. So at 8 o'clock in the morning or 8:30, when our workday started, I could just dive right into it and get after it. But there's definitely power in getting up before everybody else and accomplishing your day, because many, many times I would accomplish more from 5 to 8 than I felt like most people would from 8 to 2 or in an entire day. Just the house is quiet, it's dark outside, nobody's texting you at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, or at least they shouldn't be. I mean, who the hell's texting you that early? But to me, that was a time I could really kind of stay focused, have my coffee, and really knock things out and start checking that list.
Gotcha.
Nice.
All right, guys. So we're gonna have a short episode today. So, we definitely, if you guys got any questions, definitely share any questions y'all may have so we could try to get them answered. Um, but to continue, number four, remember the three Ds: do it, delegate it, or dump it. Handle each piece of paper only once. Either do something about it now, delegate it to someone else, or throw it in the trash. And remember, only do it if only you can do it. So
Mm.
the last part is a little weird, but basically, obviously, decide whether you want to. It's important whether you want to do it now, you want to delegate it to someone that could properly handle it, or you need to trash it because everything isn't. There's a lot of garbage that we get. We get a lot of spam mail that isn't important. We get a lot of things that aren't really on our priority list, like stuff that isn't due for months or whatever the case is. And if you have people in your company, like let's say you have a sales manager who can be handling certain reports, delegate it. There's no reason why you need to add that to your plate when you have people that you can delegate to. Or if you have an assistant, delegate it to your assistant, so that there's things that you could take off your plate. When I was in business, we had since we had so many managers, it was to the point where everybody had their to-do list. And then I would see what everybody's to-do list was, and I'm like, okay, well, this person handles operation tasks, this person handles sales tasks, this person handles financial tasks. Okay, what is my task now? Now that I got all of that stuff off my plate and I don't have to deal with it, what is the most important stuff that nobody else can do but me? And that's how kind of like how it made it a lot easier and less stressful on my day because I focused on the major tasks to push the needles. I guess Ryan, we can start with you on this one.
Oh man, this is where I'm probably the last one that you want to speak on behalf of this one, but I love the three Ds: to do it, delegate it, or dump it. I often found times back when I was in my moving side of the thing, just because of how I took pride in my work and this and that and what have you. I tend to do a lot of do it's when I probably should have did a lot of delegate it's, or even reality probably did a lot of dump it's. And that was kind of the aura in the inner office back in the day, was like, hey, if I don't do it, Ryan's gonna do it. So we had a lot of people dumping it, knowing I was going to step up and do it. And I think a lot of that too kind of rolls back to kind of the culture within your organization, which we talked about a couple episodes ago, Dwight, and even boiling it down into role clarity. What are you doing? What should you be doing in your particular role? Primary one, primary two, primary three, and having the ability to basically, you know, do it, delegate it, or dump it. But I'm probably the worst person to. I need more Bruce's magic on this one. I'll tell you.
All right, Bruce, you go.
Yeah, what kind of pops in my head when you're talking about this is like, for instance, if I'm going to make an ad, like I have very versions of an ad to go to a master class, and so I want to work on like that, like on YouTube, a short ad that's like 60 seconds or less. I want to do a longer one, like 2.5 minutes, and then I want to create a it was like about 26-minute webinar. But once I got that, like, I call it a master class, but when I get that done, then I want to hand that off. I have a coach and she helps me edit my videos, puts pictures in it. So I don't want to do that stuff. I want to hand that off. But I most important to me is just getting that my name out there, my marketing out there. So everything's kind of automatic. So that to me is like priority. But all the detaily stuff of editing it and putting pictures on it, I want to hand that off. So I want to do the stuff that I think is important, creating new products, new programs and stuff, and studying and learning more, but sub out the stuff that I don't really like to do or
Makes sense.
not my best time. Yeah.
Yeah, no, as long as I feel like as long as you know a bit about how to do it, so that no one pulls a fast one on you. Like if you don't know how to do your books, just from a general standpoint, or you don't know how to do some aspects of your, or understand some aspects of your marketing, or how to book a job, a moving job, we bring it back to the moving industry. Um, but then you want other people to do it for you. You really can't expect the results that you expect if you don't know what results to look for, in my opinion.
So how do you put this? I guess here's a question I don't think anybody's asked yet, or at least I haven't seen anything pop through, but small moving company owner, right? Wearing a million hats.
Mm.
Do it, delegate it or dump it. You're a
Mhm.
one man or a two-man operation. Say you have one truck and you have one crew. You don't have an office staff, you don't have an assistant, you don't. How do you manage that? I
So
guess.
in that
How do
case,
you,
you have to prioritize. Really have to prioritize. You have to set up your weeks. You're likely going in the field. So you really have to, this is the time where, hey, you go in the field and when you get back, you got to do payroll. Or you get back and you got to make sales calls. Or if you're in the field, you got to make sales calls while you're in the field. And it sucks being in the field and having to make sales calls, or not, sorry, not make sales calls, but take in sales calls because people are calling you. Um,
I think that's
but
what leveraging all the technology you can at that point.
mhm.
Obviously, to
But
help free up your
you know,
day, help keep you tight.
as a startup, it's hard to get that extra help or pay for that call center to say, hey, can you take my sales? Because likelihood you probably don't have no marketing going on at that point. Who's able to afford $2,000, $3,000 of marketing as a startup necessarily? No, you're focused on
Uh,
equipment. You're focused on making sure your guys are in uniform. They look sort of good. You're hiring. So you're like, geez, okay, where am I going to do all this stuff? I started in my house. So I had blocked off my living room just for my little office. I had a little desk in there, I had my equipment in there. But, even then that's scary because you're like, well, geez, this guy I just hired that I barely know, I gotta let him in my house, and some people, they'll say, hey, I'll meet you at a truck rental yard. But I found that to be inconvenient. What if you get there and they're not there and you're waiting there and you're just like, where is this guy? Where is this guy? And you're just, now your anxiety goes up.
I
So,
remember being really guilty of that when I was doing the construction, is I was trying to wear all those hats. Like I was trying to find the money, trying to find the jobs, run the jobs, do all the paperwork. And I really got to a point where it's like, man, I just don't want to do all this. And it was taking the fun out of it. It's working all these crazy hours. Then it went from 5 days to 6 days. And it's finally like, oh, I got to start, handing this stuff off, subbing more stuff out. It was just was starting to take the fun out of the work too when you try to have too many hats, and kind of too stressful when you have trying to do it all yourself, right? When you're first
mhm.
starting out, that's not for the faint of heart.
There's a few companies out there that you can leverage now. And again, I guess I can't say I was never a big fan because I just didn't know. I wasn't educated enough. But, getting a VA, a virtual assistant, or an executive assistant from another country or what have you. There's a
Mm.
lot of these out there nowadays. And it's truly the feedback I'm getting and I'm actually seeing and witnessing is absolutely amazing. For $7 an hour.
Mhm.
Oftentimes, you can get somebody that you can delegate it to, you can dump it to, and they will absolutely crush it, probably better than we would.
Yeah.
So that's something I would highly, again, back to, hey, that small business owner wearing a million hats, you might not be able to afford to bring in somebody paying them 35 to 45K a year to be an executive assistant and check the boxes, data entry, things like that. But these virtual assistants nowadays, I mean, are huge. I feel like in the
Yeah,
moving side, and I'm not sure about any other industry, but what I'm seeing in the moving
yeah,
side is the ones that are kind of gravitating towards the virtual assistants are the
yeah.
ones that are truly freeing up their time and checking more on that list each and every day.
So Ryan leads me back
Good
into it
point.
before we have to end up taking off, y'all. But Ryan leads me back into it. So as some of y'all know, I have a team of outsourced salespeople. So if you guys are looking for any salespeople to run your sales team remotely, definitely reach out. Very affordable. And again, they're hungry. They want to get the job done. So you don't have to worry about paying these high dollar amounts. I heard one client, now this was movers, but I heard one client paying his drivers $35 an hour just to get the job done. You don't have to do all that. At the end of the day, if they're hungry, they're gonna want to work either way, but you got to find the right people because, honestly, on the American side of things, a lot of people don't want to work for little to nothing. They want to work when they get paid a lot. So at the end of the day, you got to find that happy medium. Um,
Yeah.
but Bruce, were you in the market for new clients before we end up chopping out today?
Always. That's
So,
why I'm
share a little bit about what you're looking for and how you can help people before we take off.
yeah, thank you. Well, my website is rapid-reprogramming.com, and then my email is Bruce at rapid-reprogramming with the hyphen in there.com. Yeah, I'm looking for people that are business owners, entrepreneurs that want to master their mind, let go of these negative programs that are stopping them from being financially free. Like a quick little story. I had a business partner who was really good at making millions of dollars, and but I think he had this is before I was kind of learning about the subconscious programs, but he had like he wasn't worthy to keeping it. He was super good making it. And so he had a negative program of keeping that he was worthy of keeping all this money, even though he could make millions of dollars. Like whatever he touched kind of turned to gold, so to speak. But anyway, I'm just want to help people let go of their resistance that's stopping them from becoming financially abundant. So those are the business owners, entrepreneurs that I'm looking for. They can get a hold of me at those two,
Okay.
website and email. Yeah.
Yeah. So again,
Thank you.
guys, you are your worst enemy. Nobody else is stopping you but you and the negative energy that you accept around you. So work on your input, work on, accept it, work on what you take in. If you're listening to a lot of drama, if you're watching a lot of violent movies, and again, I could be a little wrong about this, but, obviously at the end of the day, if you are motivated, you're watching a lot of podcasts, you're listening to a lot of podcasts, you're watching stuff that is going to get you to that next level, you're going to start to mold in that direction more than the stuff that is negative that you're seeing on the television screens. That's, you're watching, you're going down, scrolling your Facebook, and, you're just losing so much time because you're just worried about what everybody else is posting. So focus on that, on the positive stuff that coming in your brain. Work with an amazing coach like Bruce, um, and definitely tune into our episodes. But Ryan, anything on your end?
No, man, hey, misery loves company. Remember that. So if you're around miserable people, what's going to happen? You're probably going to turn miserable as well. Surround yourself with amazing people. I've been very fortunate enough to get outside of the box of being around misery, and surround myself with some pretty incredible people that I work with
Yep.
day in and day out. And it has truly, propelled both my inner self and outer self ever since I was able to make that change. It wasn't easy just because I had to let go of a lot of folks that I truly cared for.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it wasn't making my merry-go-round go around any better. I'll tell you that.
Yep. All right, y'all. So definitely tune in next week or so like that. We'll be live again with some more gems. If there's any topics y'all could think about that y'all want to hear more about, moving related, me and Ryan are definitely, put in some work and make sure that we can answer those questions or so like that. So, Bruce, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We'd love to have you again. All right, y'all. Y'all take care.
See ya.